So in this tutorial, I am going to attempt to make a spiral ramp like this one I have here in SketchUp. I have a pretty good idea of what modifiers I need to use and all that to get this to work right. So we'll see how it goes. So we'll go here into Blender, have it already set up. This is actually going to be a lot, at least compared to creating this in SketchUp, this is going to be quite a bit different in Blender. So we're going to go make sure we're in orthographic view, and I'm going to go to my front view, and I'm going to press Shift A and say plane, R to rotate, X to rotate on the X-axis, type in 90, press enter, and then S to scale, press Z to scale on the Z-axis, scale it about where you want. I'm not going to try and get like exact dimensions or anything. This is just more of a example of how you would go about creating a ramp. Alright, and now I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to press K for knife, and then I'm just going to kind of sort of randomly cut it here where it needs to be cut, then press enter, and then I'll select it by vertex and kind of get things straightened out here. So move this up a little bit, this one as well, and we're just eyeballing this. Again, this is FSX. This is not like you're going to be driving on this ramp or anything. So as long as you get it close, no one's going to notice if it's off a little bit. Press X to get it moved here. Okay, now let's go ahead and delete this face. We're going to say X, or you can press the delete key and say delete faces. Alright, we have our basic shape. I'm going to go ahead and go outside of edit mode, and I'm just going to move this up so it's at more or less ground level, right there. Okay. And we have to go back into edit mode because I can see it's not quite level right here. So I'm going to select this vertex and just move it up just a little bit. We'll get it pretty close. Alright, that's close enough. And maybe get back to our front view here. Maybe grab this side and move it in just a little bit. There. I mean, you could spend days trying to get it exact, but we're not going to do that here. Alright, so let's go add a modifier to this, because that's pretty much all we need. It's basically just a profile of our shape here. We're going to stay in edit mode actually. Now, let's add a modifier. The one you want to use is screw. Okay. Now, obviously, it looks pretty awful right there, just applying it like that. First of all, we need to set this so on a different axis. So here in the modifier menu, we'll set it to the y-axis, and now it's looking a little better. You see it's rotating in the right direction. But you'll notice that it's kind of it's too sharp of a screw. You see, it should be some distance in between here. And so the way we fix that is we're going to X off this modifier, and then in edit mode, we don't want to do this in object mode. We have to be in edit mode to do this. We're going to select the whole object by pressing A a couple times. We're going to press G and move it off of its origin there. So if we do this in edit mode, now the center of the object is actually right where this little dot is. So when we use the screw, it's going to screw around that center point there. And so let's see how this is going to look now. If we go on down and go to perspective, because it's a little easier to see. So again, that little orange dot is the center of the object. Now if we were trying to move this in object mode, you can see that if we grabbed it, the center point moves with the with the geometry. Now, then of course in edit mode, we can grab just the geometry, and the center point stays right where it's supposed to be. Okay, let's now add that modifier. It's called screw. That's under generate. Okay, and let's set it to the y-axis, just like that. And that's looking pretty good now. So, and again, the road might be a little big, or it might, a little wide, and then might want a larger gap here. But anyhow, this is just a tutorial, so we don't have to be precise about any of this. Now, of course, you can set. Let me reset that. I don't want to change that yet. You can change the number of steps. Steps in the circle. We can go all the way down to a triangle. That's the way you make that object if you want to make that, which is actually pretty cool. You can go up to a square and pretty much any object. I mean, you want to make the pentagon. You could do that. But we're going to go up to maybe, we want it to be fairly smooth, but not too smooth, because we're going to have a lot of these. We'll go about 18 steps for now, maybe even 20, just to make it look nice. Okay, now we need to have some height in this. So what we're going to do, we're going to say screw, and we're going to raise it up like this. And we'll find a reasonable height. Maybe we'll set it to 5 right now. And in fact, I want to do -5 because it's going in the wrong direction. There we go. And the other thing I want to do is increase this angle here by 90. So that means we need to set to 270, I think it was. Okay, we want to leave it right there. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to go outside here. I want to make sure the shading is set to flat over here. Let's see if there's a difference between the two or not. That looks good. So there's a basic shape. Now, what we basically want to do is just apply this, I think. Let me save a copy just in case this isn't what I want to do. It's always a good idea. We'll call this spiral tutorial. So as not to confuse it with one of my other projects. Okay, I might bring down the screw just a little lower. I don't know. You don't want too high, you don't want too short. Right about there. And of course, if you'd typically have a parking garage here, and so you'd know how high you'd have to go between each level, and so you'd go off of that. But in this case, we don't have a parking garage modeled, and so we're just kind of playing it by ear. Okay, so we have it where we want it, and it's very important now, once you apply a modifier, you cannot unapply it. I mean, you can apply it like this. Whoops, you have to be in object mode, of course. You can apply it like that, and then you can press Control Z. But other than that, if you can't get back to it that way, once it's applied, and you can't do anything about it. So make sure it's the way you want it. We'll press Apply. And so now everything is there. You can see now. Now we can see all the little pieces to the object. something here real quick. I just want to see. Okay. So one thing we want to check now at this point, before we do anything else, we want to set the rendering or the viewport shading to texture, and we want to check the normals. Normals is what direction is the face facing. Now you can notice that these faces right here are flipped to the inside, so you see the normal is facing inside, and we don't want that. But you notice the ones here are all facing the right direction. If you don't take care of normals fairly often, you're going to have a nightmare when you come to texturing things. So it's a good idea to start flipping your normals sooner rather than later. So what we need to do, I think it'd be easiest to flip everything. Okay. Now it leaves these normals in here. So what we'll do, we'll select all of these. Doesn't take too long. It's not too bad. A little bit of clicking to do, but most objects you won't have this many polys to click, but of course with this circle there is a lot. And we'll flip. Let's see, what else do we need to flip here? We'll try and select it all at once. Get all these. So that's why I went into the viewport. We set the viewport shading to texture so we could see which way the normals were facing. It's a pretty good tip right there, because else it's kind of hard to tell. So I'm going to say flip normals, and now you can see all our normals are facing outwards. Exactly what we want. Okay, so we can picture that the parking garage wall is right here. What we need to do, I'm going to go to my, let's see, I'm trying to figure out what view I want. I think it's going to be an orthographic, of course. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to solid shading. I want to select these edges here. I'm going to press Control E. E, of course, stands for edge. I'm going to say Make Edge Face. Now, one thing I want to do and point out here is you could make the faces like this. You don't necessarily have to select every side, then you can go like this, or Control E, Make Edge Face. That didn't quite work out the way I thought. Try it like that. Make edge face, and you see it filled in, but you're going to run into a problem if you don't select all the edges, because you'll notice here, and it actually didn't exactly happen there because I guess it was okay doing it like that, but sometimes if you don't select all the edges you get extra vertices and the face is not really connected with the rest of your geometry. So it's good to always select all the edges that you intend to fill in. So like this, Control E, Make Edge Face. Just take my word for it, even though that was not necessarily a case in that particular situation. Alright, so now we're going to press, we have the face selected, we're going to press E to extrude. We're going to extrude it right out about where the parking garage would be. Maybe right about there. Okay. And of course then, we need to say actually what we need to do now, we need to do a loop cut, so Control R. But before we do that, maybe even we want to hide some of this. We'll go to Z to go to X-ray, and then we'll say border select by pressing B, left the mouse drag, and we'll hide a lot of this here. Okay, let's make it easier to see what we're doing. Go back out of X-ray by pressing Z, and in fact, maybe what I want to do before I do hide that, I want to duplicate this first of all. Alright, getting a little ahead of myself here, but I think glad I thought of that soon enough. Now we can hide these I can hide these faces here. Whoops. Now again, that's press H to hide, and of course Alt H will unhide things. And let's see here. So now we have what we want unhidden there. What I want to do now is, before I loop cut this, I could loop cut it now, but it's probably be smart to extrude this piece where I want it. So we're actually going to say Control E. We want to make sure we have that edge right there selected. There, now Control E, make edge face. Then we'll go to our top view, we'll press extrude, and we'll extrude right out, just so it hooks up, or kind of, how would you say that? Lines up right with this edge here of the other part of the ramp. Okay. Hopefully it's pretty clear by now what I'm trying to accomplish. We're going to have to cut for the next couple levels here. It spirals around, and we need to have a little cut in the wall here for the so cars will be able to travel through that there and keep going up the ramp. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to just say Control R. We're going to loop cut this in, let's see here, how many places do we need to do this? I guess only 2 places, so we're going to press Control R again. Okay. We're going to try and get this lined up pretty close here, so grab, make sure we lock it to the right axis, in this case it'd be the Y axis, move it where it needs to be, okay, and then we'll select these edges, and we'll go to our top view, say grab, move on the Y axis, just like that. And then all that we have left to do is to delete parts of this here. So I'm going to delete this faces, and let's see, I want to delete this face. And before I delete this face, I need to cut it with the knife, so I'll delete this edge right here, delete edges, and then we'll kind of go like this just to get it cut. Alright, then we'll go back to our side view here, and we'll get the vertices moved. We'll press Z to get into X-ray, see things a little better. Then we'll just go like this, and this should work out pretty nicely. Okay, and then we can go ahead and just delete this edge, and it should be cut out nicely. So what this will do for us is, let's see here if it'll work, if everything lines up here. Before we do anything, let me go back. I need to edit this piece, so I'm going to grab all those edges there, fill it in by Control E, and then let's go to my top view, and we'll extrude this to line up with this edge here. Now, why I duplicated this is because the bottom one doesn't have a cut in the wall right here, but the ones in between the bottom and the top one do. So, it's good that I duplicated those. Gonna move this. We'll just get it lined up first with the other one, and then we can move it upwards. And that's actually pretty close. One thing we could do to make this easy on ourselves is just center both at the origin. Okay, then we'll grab this one and we'll move it up on the z-axis. Get to the appropriate view so we can see where we need to raise it to here. Line the two up. Okay. And that's looking pretty good. I do see one mistake. Well, I guess maybe not a mistake. I just need to unhide some objects here. I do see one thing though. I shouldn't have deleted this edge. I should have kept it. So we'll just put it back in there real quick. Okay, and press enter. That didn't put it where I wanted it. Let's see. Try and get on the right one here. In fact, maybe the way we need to do this is select these edges. So it's probably easier. Just do it like this. Okay, we'll select those. We'll say Control E, make edge face. And then we need to see if we can't draw an edge into here. That won't work, so go like this, make edge face, and then we should be able to go like this. Okay, and that cleans everything up nicely. One thing you should do when you do this now is just to check to make sure all the vertices are together. Sometimes you get two vertices in one spot, and if you don't catch them early, you'll end up having a tough time trying to find them when you're texturing, because it'll cause problems when you're doing that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, what we need to do, we'll just duplicate this a couple more times here. Whoops. Shift D, move up on the x-axis there. Let's see. Let's move it down a little bit. And this is actually working out pretty good. We'll do it one more time. And of course the top one, let's see here. The top one just runs in on its own. So what we need to do is figure out where we need to delete this. I might go ahead and just duplicate it one more time. faces first. I'm hoping this works out. I will delete those faces. Okay, border select again. Got a couple more here. Okay, and this we can just run straight into where the parking garage wall would be. So I'll make this a face, and we're obviously going to have to kind of mess with things a little bit because of it's not quite straight. They will just go right on the y-axis there. That'll work. And then press Z. I want to select these vertices right here. We'll select these ones right here first. Grab Z, or on the Y, lock on the Y-axis there. Get it straightened out. Select these. Y-axis, straighten these out. And I'll straighten these out right here. Make sure you're in X-ray when you select the vertices, else you won't be able to select the ones that are behind each other. So okay. And so that's pretty much it. One thing you might have noticed is I actually ended up doing this ramp a little backwards to the way it should be. If you take notice here, it might have been easier to build it from the top down. It's a little confusing. Basically, it's just the way we went up is kind of in reverse of this one. Instead of this is on the bottom, instead of here it's on the top. But it's more or less doesn't matter a whole lot. I mean, I'd try and stay accurate to whatever model you're making, but I'm sure they do it both ways. Anyhow, hope that was useful. Anybody who's trying to make a spiral ramp, I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out the best way to do it, and finally was pretty successful. I might go through and just show you how I would go about texturing it. And maybe bake some ambient occlusion to make it look good. So let's do that now. The best way, we have this object, and then we have 3 of the same objects, and then we have another object. So we have basically, essentially, 3 different objects here. What we need to do, I'm going to hide these 3. So I'm going to press H. Okay. I'm going to unwrap this one here. I'm going to select this edge. I'm going to press Control E and then say Edge Loop. You can see now we selected all the edges there. I'm going to do that for the rest of these edges here, so you can get pretty proficient at this. Just Control E, Loop, select an edge, Control E, Loop, and you just do that everywhere here. We'll select these. Where else do we need it? We need these edges. We need to mark these, because what we're doing here, of course, is we're going to mark these edges that I'm selecting as seams. And So this is where the geometry will unfold onto our texture map. Let's see, we need to select these edges. And it's looking like we got most of them. Doesn't actually take all that long with all of Blender's handy little keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so now we're just going to say mark seam. So over here on the left, under UV mapping, say mark seam. And we'll select nothing just to see if we got everything. Looks like we can just mark that seam. I'm going to mark that edge as a seam as well. Now it looks like we got everything. So before unwrap, I'm going to press tab. I'm going to press Control A. I'm going to say rotation and scale. Okay. And you want to do that before you unwrap any of your objects. That will prevent any distortion when you unwrap your geometry. So now I'm going to I split the viewport here. Let me do that again. Press in this viewport. And I'm going to set my left viewport to UV image editor. I'm going to make a new image. I'm just going to go with 1024 by 1024. I'd maybe make it 2048 or so usually, but this is just a tutorial, and when I do my texture baking, I want it to go pretty fast, so we'll just leave it at that size for now. I'm going to select all our geometry. I'm going to say unwrap. Okay, and you can see everything is unwrapped quite nicely. You can see there's still a lot of room on the texture sheet. So what you might even do is just create one texture sheet and place all your pieces for the spiral ramp on here. So maybe like 14096 texture sheet, which is equivalent to 2048 texture sheet. So that's a lot of resolution to work with there. So let's go ahead. We'll set this to this texture sheet here. I may even make a new image now since I've changed my plans. I might make it twice as large. Just for this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move these parts of the map to a different part of the sheet. Of course, I want to make sure I have everything selected first. Okay, we're going to grab, rotate 90 degrees. I want to move it like right over here. A little more out of the way. Okay, now we're going to make sure we're in Blender Render. We've done this before in other videos. We're going to go to the Render menu. Actually, first we're going to go to World menu. We're going to check mark ambient occlusion, and then under Gather, we're going to set our samples up. I'm going to set to about 15. I might do 25 or 30 if I was trying to do this for an actual scenery, but 15 will be plenty for this tutorial. Then we'll go to the Render menu, and at the very bottom under Bake, we'll set the Bake mode to ambient occlusion, and we'll set the margin to about 10. Okay, and then we'll say Bake. Okay, everything appears to have finished. Didn't take very long at all, really. Go to Texture. You can actually see one thing I need to do real quick, because I forgot to, is flip all these normals. As you can see, we have some unflipped ones, and that's why it looks so weird. So let me do that real quick. Okay, success. I just had to flip the normals real quick. And now it looks like it should, because there's obviously going to be a lot of shadows underneath the ramp here. Unless here, if we had a plane underneath here, we'd see more shadows on the bottom of this. But I didn't put one there, so So now we just need to map the rest of our ramps. So in fact, let's unhide everything. I'll try to here. To hide this, this, and this. And I'll even hide the bottom one here, and we'll just work on this. Okay. Well, it might be easy to do this in texture. No, we better go to solid shading. A little easier to see our selections. Okay. So, same deal. I'm just going to select, whoops. I'm just going to select everything here. So this one's a little more tedious, as you've probably noticed, than the last one, but not too bad. We have some things that well, it's okay actually. I'll leave those. Okay, we get all these edges selected. Want that selected. These. Okay, we want this. Go ahead and mark these as seams. Check to see if we missed anything. A lot of times you do. You don't notice until after you unwrap everything. Alright, so we're going to unwrap to this same texture sheet over here. So it's going to say unwrap. Okay. And it looks like it did it right. It actually looks a little odd. We have some issues right in here. That's usually due to some vertice or something not working very well. Let's see. We need to go through here, check to look for any missed seams. The problem is probably right in here somewhere, where the shading looks weird. And of course, that does appear to be the case. So it's this polygon right here that's giving us heartaches. So let's see what the problem is. Sometimes check for extra vertices. Sometimes it seems to me like it's just a quirk with Blender. But you can tell there's probably a problem here because of the way the shading looks kind of odd here. One way I'm going to try and do this, I'm just going to delete this face. And I'm going to select these edges. I'm just going to remake the face. So Control E. I want to select that edge first. Okay, so we have something going on here that's a little weird. We got this vertex which we just want to delete. So dissolve vertices. That looks better. And that might have been our problem right there. So we'll find out here pretty shortly. Make edge face. The shading does look better on it now, so I'm hopeful. Let's see what happens. Okay, and now that it is fixed, I think that vertice was our problem. So what we need to do is, since we unwrapped this onto the 2048 texture sheet, and we unwrapped the last one on a 1024 texture sheet, then moved it to a 2048 texture sheet, this one has turned out to be twice the size. Not a big deal, we just need to scale it down by half. So type in 0.5, and it should be the same scale. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just move these somewhere, like right there. I want to grab that seam. That's something I forgot to do. So again, I'm just kind of going back through and making sure that we have all the seams that we want selected. It's marked there. Let's unwrap it again. Scale 0.5. We'll just move this right over. Actually, it looks like it's scaled a little too small. Let's scale it down. I think it's 0.75 is what we need to scale it to. Maybe. I'm a little confused now, but that looks closer. And we're going to have to kind of arrange these. In fact, hold down Control and left click. We can do kind of an arbitrary selection here. Try and get everything. Okay, and we'll just do border select for these parts. Right here. Let's see, we move these up here. And this, we'll do an arbitrary selection for this. So hold down Control and left click. Alright, something like that. We'll see what happens. Alright, I got most of it. We need to select these. Okay. Grab and move these like up here. And this, of course, we'll move it somewhere as soon as we make sure we have everything selected. I'm going to do arbitrary selection. Okay. We're getting somewhere. We can select all this. Okay. And we'll just say that's for one texture sheet. I'd, of course, try and cram even more onto that texture sheet if I was doing this for real, but baking it real quick. Whoops, and one thing I forgot to do, well, can't do anything about it now, but I need to save that image. Let's go to texture, see how this one looks. Let's try this again. Almost looks like our normals are reversed. Let's see what happens if we flip the normals. Nope. What I got wrong here, so I'm trying to figure out. Okay. So let's do this. Well, it should be working. Either way, we're going to save this image. So save as image. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Bad idea, because before you know it, my desktop is going to be cluttered. So spiral. Let's do S. I'll say S02. Save as image. Okay, I'm going to unhide everything. this one down here. I need to rebake this. Real quick. Okay, image, save as image. Call this one 0, 1. We'll open up GIMP real quick. Open both of our images. So open the first one, then open the other one as a layer. Then we'll save or export. Let's overwrite one of them. And we'll say image, replace image. Navigate to it. And there we are. Sometimes you have to like reload the image or something for it to show up if it's not showing up. But anyhow, that looks pretty good. And so you just keep doing that for the rest of these ramps, and you end up with a pretty nice parking garage ramp. So I hope that was informative, useful. Hopefully some of you guys can use some of it. I mean, some of the things shown here don't necessarily just pertain to spiral ramps, but pertain to a lot of different modeling techniques. So I think it'd be pretty useful to a lot of you guys. I'm going to duplicate the one that I baked, because these are all the same, of course. Okay, back to texture. Right. And that it's really looking pretty nice now. So anyhow, yeah. I plan to get back to work on the taxiway markings and wear tutorials. It's just a little time consuming for me at the moment, because, you know, making textures, you know, it takes a long time. But I want to get back to that. A couple more videos for textures, and then I'll get down to applying those textures in a Gmax project, and then exporting them all and stuff, and setting the layers correctly so they all work out nicely in Flight Simulator. So anyhow, stay tuned. You can always check out my Facebook page, which I always link to in the description, if you want to stay up to date on things. Okay, see ya.